I'm Dr. Darren Oatley Radcliffe. I'm an associate professor currently at Swansea University, and my background is I'm a chemical and bioprocess engineer. I'm a chartered chemical engineer, chartered by the Institute of Chemical Engineers. I'm the work package 2 leader in rice, and to most people that won't mean very much. But what work package 2 is all about is sequestering carbon dioxide and turning it into a useful product. And in our specific work package, we're going to be doing that via a technology called algal processing, or algal production technologies. So algae are small microorganisms. I should probably clarify, there's two kinds of algae. There's microalgae and there's macroalgae. Macroalgae, I guarantee everybody knows what they are. They're generally seaweeds. They're big, clumpy, kelp-looking things. But what I'm dealing with is microalgae. So anybody who ever kept goldfish, you know, you get all that green sort of pond scum that generally grows over time in the goldfish bowl. Those are microalgae. And there's thousands of different types of them, different species that live within that type of organism. And so what we've discovered as humankind is that algae are essentially the greenhouse sort of gas mediators of the oceans. So algae float around in the oceans, they form huge blooms from time to time. So what the algae are doing is they're nature's pollution control agents. So if you get a lot of nutrient in a bay, so for example there's like a sewage discharge or something like that, you get an algal bloom because they're feeding on that nutrient that's there. Now, key to their growth is they need nutrients in the form of nitrogen and phosphorus. Normally that would be in the form of nitrates or ammonia, and phosphates, which basically are human sewage, is full of it as one particular area, but fertilizers and things like this are also full of it. And the other thing they need to grow is a carbon source. And typically for them, they don't mind where that carbon source comes from. So what we're doing in our particular project is we're harnessing CO2 from vented waste gases, and we're going to suck that CO2 up and inject it into an algal production facility. This is a big biological production reactor. So if you want to visualize this thing, it's going to be a series of transparent tubes, vertically mounted in our particular case. And if you imagine, each of those tubes is going to be green, because the algae as it's growing is green because it's full of chlorophyll pigment. A bit like grass is green, it's got the same kind of chlorophyll pigment. And what the algae do then is they undergo a process called photosynthesis. Most people have heard of this from basic schooling. But what photosynthesis does is it takes sunlight, it splits water and releases oxygen. It also then takes hydrogen from the water. And then what it does is it takes that hydrogen and sticks it to CO2 and effectively then polymerizes up carbon molecules, for want of a better word, making longer carbon chains, and it sticks nitrogen and phosphate into those chains in order to make different molecules. Now the algae themselves are fantastic. There's thousands of them, and different algae produce different products. In very basic terms, algae can be split into thirds in terms of their product ratios. So in an algal body, if you want to view it like that, or in an algal cell, there's roughly 1/3 carbohydrate, roughly 1/3 of protein, and 1/3 of fats and lipids. So they're very nutritious. So people will have been eating nori, for example, within sushi. You know, the sort of green wraps around your sushi rice bundles. That's a form of algae. So we eat it because it's very nutritious. So what we're going to be doing with the rice project is we're going to be growing up these algae, and then we're going to be doing downstream processing. That means we're going to harvest them and refine them, and we're going to create food products out of them. So the first product we're going to make is a freeze-dried algal powder that can be used as a nutritional supplement or additive. So as an example, people might be familiar with a material called spirulina. Lots of people who are into fitness and health foods and stuff like that, they will go to health food shops and they'll buy bags of spirulina powder, and they'll essentially sprinkle it into their foods and they'll consume it because it's full of really good nutrients. Lots of high quality proteins in there, but it's also full of really good omega oils. So most people are familiar with omega-3 fish oils and all this kind of stuff. Well, the fish don't actually produce those oils, the algae produce them. The algae then get consumed in the oceans by small organisms, and then the fish come along and eat the small organisms, and they basically ingest it as part of that process. The other thing we're going to do is once we get the whole algae and we make that as a freeze-dried powder, we're then going to start opening that algae up and extracting out the proteins. So we're going to make a protein-enriched extract from the algae. And the idea for that is we can then use that as a nutrient or a feed additive for different production systems. So we're going to use it and we're going to try and feed some to cows to see if cows like to eat it. We're going to try and feed some to fish. Fish by very nature should love eating it. And we're going to look at how can we replace some of the food products that currently animals are consuming using these particular algal products. And aspirationally, what we'd also like to do is start harvesting some of the pigments out of the algae. Now, I mentioned earlier that there's chlorophyll inside of algae. This is one type of pigment in there, but there's others in there as well. And spirulina, which we mentioned already, spirulina's got a very lovely pigment in there called phycocyanin, which is a very blue-colored pigment. And what we're hoping to do is also harvest some of this and purify that up into very high purity form